and firing it up.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of College Park Public Safety Zoom. This is our return from summer hiatus, and so we'll be doing this every month now until next summer. And so we try to present a variety of public safety topics. This month, our special topic will be emergency preparedness. This is Emergency Preparedness Month, and so that's why we are doing that again this September. And we are going to start in our, I think I'm looking at the attendees, I think everybody's been here before. So we're going to start as usual with a police presentation, but first I'd like to introduce, if you have never met, our city manager, Kenny Young, and invite Kenny to give greetings.
Good evening, everybody. Actually, it looks like I've met everybody on here tonight, either on person or virtual committee meeting, or so definitely look forward to continue working with all the residents.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kenny. And I will turn it over to Major Coletti to review the most recent monthly crime statistics and any other crime prevention information that Corporal Nunez would like to present to us. And I'll turn it over to Major Coletti, and when he's finished, then we'll welcome Rashid Plummer from the Office of Emergency Management. Major Coletti, the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you. Hey, good evening, everyone. Chris, if you can go ahead and start off with page number 2. We'll start off talking about the daily crime incidents for the city for the month of August. So for the month of August, we had a busy week, or I'm sorry, a busy month in the city. We had 1 commercial robbery, 1 citizen robbery, 1 residential robbery, 2 assaults, a commercial burglary, a residential burglary, 11 theft from autos, just 6 general thefts, and 8 auto thefts. And I'll go into detail on some of the major crimes in a couple minutes. Chris, can you slide over to page 3, please? Page 3, just outlining the robberies that we had in the city. As you can tell, most of them were up north of the city. Go to slide 4, please. Our 2 assaults, one was near Lakeland, and the second one was in the Hollywood area. Our burglaries, we had 1, which was, I give the exact address. Our residential burglaries in the 4800 block of Berwyn Road. Our commercial burglary was in the 4500 block of College Avenue, which was the Dunkin' Donuts. And we had a second residential burglary, 5200 block of Lackawanna Street. You can slide over to page 6. I'm not going to go through each of these theft from autos or auto thefts, but just outlining where they're at. As you can all tell, they're basically staying near the corridor of Baltimore Avenue. We can switch over to, okay, page 7, the audit thefts. If you look at the audit thefts, we've had a total of 8 for the month, and they're pretty much evenly distributed throughout the whole city. We'll shoot over to page 8. Just to show just the noise complaints in the city, just give you like a an outline of where they're coming from. They're pretty much spread out in the city. We'll shoot at page 9, quality of life. Quality of life or incidents such as disorderly conduct, loitering, controlled dangers of substance, complaints, etc. We'll switch to page 10. Just a list of our field contacts we made in the city, stopping people, their suspicious nature. As you can tell, they really look like they're all right down Baltimore Avenue corridor. Shoot over to page 11. And just a monthly comparison. I'll give everybody time to look at it. And we'll shoot over page 12. And I'll leave page 12 up and I'll just discuss some of the major crimes that we had in the city. I'll start off with robberies. We had an unarmed commercial robbery at the Truitt's Bank in the 10,200 block of Baltimore Avenue. The suspect entered the bank, handed the teller a brochure in a plastic bag. He had a note. Long story short is they filled the bag. He left the store. Our major crimes unit responded to the scene. They were able to identify the suspect from video, and an arrest warrant was obtained for his arrest. Our armed residential robbery, which was on August 13th, 9137 Baltimore Avenue, is at the Red Roof Inn. The suspect paid money on a dating app to meet somebody there. As he entered the room, there was a transgender male. He became upset, went out to his vehicle, got a handgun, came back to the room, demanded his money back, fired one shot, and fled the scene. Our patrol officers did a good job. They were able to locate him, stop him, and place him under arrest. So it's real good work by patrol. We had another unarmed citizen robbery in the 5200 block of Magnum Road. The victim advised that he was walking along the sidewalk and an unknown Honda Pilot stopped in front of him. 3 suspects exited. They began to assault him. They attempted to take his book bag, but the victim kept control of the book bag. They jumped in the vehicle and fled. This is still an open investigation. I'll talk about 2 of the assaults. One was the unarmed assault, 9530 Baltimore Avenue. Just as a neighbor complaint, the victim advised he was assaulted by his neighbor. It's still an investigation. We had another unarmed assault, 8204 Baltimore Avenue. The victim advised she was groped in her breast on the elevator. Patrol officers responded to the scene. They were able to locate the suspect and place him under arrest. So that's also a good arrest by the police. And I'll just discuss 2 of the, I'll discuss 3 of the burglaries. We had a residential burglary, 5207 Lackawanna Street. Suspect entered a home by breaking out the basement window. The suspect then broke heating equipment and attempted to burn the house down. Officers arrived on the scene and the suspect was placed under arrest. We had another residential burglary in the 4800 block of Berwyn House Road. The victim advised that the maintenance worker stole a video game from their apartment while they were away. And lastly, I'll just talk about the commercial burglary, 4500 block at College Avenue. It's the Dunkin' Donuts. I think that's the Landmark Apartments. Something that I didn't realize, the Dunkin' Donut, when they close, they don't have any gates that they close down. So anybody who enters the apartment building has access to their storefront. Suspects entered the Dunkin' Donuts, stole food, and vandalized property. Our investigators responded out and were able to identify the suspects through video and some other investigative leads. And right now, there's 2 adult arrest warrants pending for their for the crime. So what I'll do now is, Chris, you can open up to everybody, and I'll just see. Does anybody have any questions for me? Todd?
Hi, thank you for that report. How successful are when there are stolen vehicles? What percentage of them are end up being recovered in general?
I couldn't even tell you. I would have to go back and research it. That's something I don't keep
Yeah.
track of. Many vehicles do get recovered. I will tell you that. But with the percentages, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. My immediate next door neighbor had his truck stolen. He was one. Yeah, I think he was one of the dots up in Hollywood on your map for the stolen vehicle in August, and he was very, very frustrated. But yeah, so I just curious, like, what kind of expectation, is it? So if something tells me it's tough to recover them sometimes.
Yeah, in some cases, not all cases, we do recover a lot of vehicles. A lot of times they'll sit abandoned for a couple of weeks until somebody calls us, and we'll go out and recover the vehicle. So yeah, I'm not gonna say every vehicle is always recovered, but I would say we do get a lot of them back. I will say that. And Todd made me realize one thing I didn't go over, the loud muffler citations. So in the month of August, we wrote 60 citations for loud exhaust. Gave out 26 warnings and 11 safety repair orders. And so since I've been tracking it, so far we've issued 452 citations, 120 warnings, and 96 safety equipment repair orders. Any other questions?
Major Clarity, I have a question about the stolen vehicles. Someone is telling me the other day, these vehicles are used for other crimes. Is that correct? Like someone steal a vehicle and they use that vehicle to do other crimes.
Sure, that does happen. I mean, people steal vehicles for a wide range of reasons. One is to use the vehicle in other crimes, other purposes for joyriding, or just to get from point A to point B. A lot of times they'll use them to take parts off the vehicle. So it's a wide range of reasons why people steal vehicles.
Yeah, so most of the time, I think, and you can probably tell what percentage of the cases where the stolen vehicles are recovered. Is there any stats on that, like 50%, kind of rough figure?
I don't have them with me. I would have to research that, and I would have to get the stats back to everybody later on, maybe next month.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I can say this right now, for the year, for Division 1, we've had a total of 410 vehicles stolen. Last year at the same time, we had 334. So auto thefts are way up in our division. So we're up by 23%. The good news is that we are down homicides in our division by 8, which gives us a percentage of 44%. So we're really leading a lot of the A lot of the violent crime or a lot of the homicide rate that's down in the county is coming from Division One. So we're doing a good job with violent crime.
Can I ask another question? Probably this is the best time. Excuse me.
Sure.
So someone was asking this question in the last week's NCPCA community meeting. It's about the recent curfew. The county executive has asked, I think it started last Friday evening, correct? Or rather midnight throughout the county for the young people more than 17 years old. So now how do, so the question was how in College Park, the contract police department will be enforcing it. Or do you have any role in it? Or just the PGPD will be doing it?
Now, first of all, the curfew law has been on the books for probably the last 20 years. All right. It's always been on the books. What they're asking us to do is to go out and actually stop juveniles that are violating the curfew, have them go back home. We will submit the necessary paperwork to alert their parents, right? So once the parents are alerted, once they are warned, then the next time that juvenile is stopped, if he is stopped, the parent can be cited. So this is a countywide effort. We're trying to reduce crime or by asking the juveniles to be inside their houses during the appropriate times. I will tell you this, my division, I have 4 officers working overtime Friday night and Saturday night. Or I'm sorry, I think it's 4 officers. I think they're actually started tonight. So we're putting some officers out to see if we can reduce violent crime in the county by getting some of the juveniles that are on the streets late at night back home. I hope
So
I answered your question.
if you see a young person, how do you know he's a 17? Do you ask his or her ID to check his or her age?
Well,
he is?
Most police officers are pretty good about identifying somebody who's under or 17 or under. But yes, you can ask for identification. You can always ask for the parents' phone number, give the parents a call. There's a lot of avenues, a lot of investigative ways we can determine if the juvenile is telling us the truth or not. But the whole point is this. It's really to get juveniles off the street during the late hours so they don't become victims or they're suspects in crimes. The whole goal is to reduce violent crime in the county, and that's what we're trying to do with the curfew, enforcing the curfew law that's already on the books.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Major.
Yes, sir.
While we're still on the police section, just in case some of our viewers tonight and later have not met them, I'd like to introduce our 2 COPS officers. And these are community-oriented police officers. They're assigned to the city by the county, so they're not part of our contract program, but we get their full-time attention. And so we have Corporal Lobin, who has the north side of the city, the Baker 7 beat, and Corporal Nunez, who has the south side of the city, the Baker 6 beat. That they have both worked with our communities for quite a few years. I don't even recall how many years. Corporal Lobin, were you were here before Corporal Nunez, right?
No, sir. We both came in together. I'm not really sure what year we came in, but we quickly acclimated to College Park. I came in first, and I believe, well, we came in together. I had Baker 7, and Corporal Nunez had Baker 1 beat, but then he believed he needed more of a challenge after Corporal Black had moved to CSD. So then he decided to come and help me out with Baker 6. And he says that's the greatest joy he's ever had.
I don't know. Corporal Lobin, speaking for you, Corporal Nunez, is this the best place you've ever been in the world, right?
Of course, it is the best place to work.
And both of our cops officers have been a great help, and they're troubleshooters for Major Coletti, who can go out and not necessarily always solve crimes, but can help mediate some of our resident to resident disputes from time to time. So it's a great asset to have that Prince George's Police provides to the city. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew our cops officers, and feel free to reach out to them. And oftentimes Major Cluddy or I will punt a neighborhood problem to them to help work to solve. So thank you both. I'll turn it back to Major Cluddy. Thank you.
And thank you too, Bob. It's been great working with you.
So any other questions regarding crime?
Yes, I do have a question. This is Councilmember Whitney. Hi, Major Coletti. Thank you for being here tonight. And definitely thank you, Corporals Loban and Nunez, for your service in our neighborhoods. It's really nice to have officers who we know we can reach out to when we have questions or concerns. And I know you've both been very responsive in the past. Very appreciated. But I do have a question, again, one more follow-up question about the curfew. I just wondered if the department is keeping statistics on who is actually given warnings, citations, et cetera, as part of the increased enforcement of the curfew during this time, and if that will be, how that will be communicated back to the community.
So we are, every patrol division's keeping stats for the next 30 days. I don't believe we had any at Division 1 over the first week. Yes, we sat at headquarters, and that's public information. I'm sure the county executive or somebody will publish that later on. But I can tell you right now, I believe at Division 1 we didn't issue any warnings over the weekend, the past weekend.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, Bob, I think it's all yours.
Hey, thank you, Major. So we'll move right on to our special presentation. This is a presentation from Prince George's County Office of Emergency Management. And Mr. Rashid Plummer is here with us tonight. And as I mentioned earlier, this is Emergency Preparedness Month, September. And so Mr. Plummer will give us some advice on personal and family emergency preparedness. And I want to thank him and the Office of Emergency Management for their assistance recently with the City of College Park during our severe storm. City manager and I work closely with the County Office of Emergency Management, and they were great assist to the city. And we plan to let them assist us in the future whenever necessary.
Definitely our pleasure, Bob. Definitely our pleasure. If the need presents itself, you'll definitely have us on scene. Is it possible that I could share my screen? I have a small presentation I wanted to actually show.
Sure.
Okay.
Our man behind the curtain is Chris Jenkins, our code supervisor. And Chris?
Yep, you have sharing privileges, so you can go right on ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. Does everyone see the presentation? Right.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. As Bob mentioned, my name is Rashid Plummer, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here for the Prince George's County Office of Homeland Security. Thank you all very much for taking the time out of your evening, as well as your busy schedules, to allow us to go over some preparedness steps that each of you can participate in to better prepare you and your loved ones to be able to sustain themselves in the event of a disaster potentially affecting our area, as well as potentially affecting you all as individuals. Preparedness starts at home. If we're not able to take care of and sustain ourselves, we undoubtedly would not be able to be a resource to others. Today, we would like to discuss some rather easy steps that you and your loved ones can take or can partake in to better prepare yourself and your family members in the event of a disaster occurring. We would like to talk about insurance. For one, having knowledge of what your insurance policy covers prior to a disaster can be very advantageous to ensuring a speedy recovery. It's nothing worse than having a disaster occur at your home and you're trying to actually locate your insurance policy as well as to locate what your policy actually covers. It's best to have knowledge of what your policy covers prior to a potential event occurring. Possibly keep the insurance after hours numbers handy as well, so you're not looking for that particular document that would have a after hours number or trying to actually access the internet to potentially get in contact with them. If a disaster does occur at your home, definitely make an attempt to contact your insurance provider immediately after ensuring the safety of your loved ones to potentially open a claim. The faster you open the claim, the faster that you'll be able to potentially receive an actual assistance from your insurance company based upon your policy benefits. We'll talk about, as I don't need to really explain to many of the residents in College Park because you all were directly affected from actual power lines being down and power being out with the recent storms that affected our area. But breaks in utility services may also occur during potential times of disaster. It's advantageous to have contact information prior to a disaster for your actual utility companies. Contacting your utility companies can give you actually up-to-date information as well as allow you to provide them information on potential down power lines that are in the area that they may not have immediate information on. What I wanted to do is ensure, and you may not be able to see it on the slide, but I wanted to ensure that everyone has contact information to reach out to possible PEPCO. If PEPCO is the actual electrical company in your region, you would contact 1-877 PEPCO 62. If you're in the southern part of the county, you would reach out to SMECO, which would be 1-877-74 SMECO. If you're a BGE customer, you would dial 1-877-778-2222 to actually inform them of any down power lines or any issues that you're actually insuring and actually occurring at your home at the moment with any power lines. Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. As we all know, with the actual recent storm that just came through here that we were watching in regards to potential tornado warning affecting our area. A disaster can occur at any potential time. So if we're not ready prior to, we don't have time to get ready. So with that being stated, do you and your loved ones have knowledge of what a communication plan is? Communication plan is a system of providing notifications to your loved ones in the event of a disaster. And I'll take it back. I know I'm probably aging myself here, but I think we're all at least over 30. During 9/11, if you remember during 9/11, you weren't able to actually place phone calls. You weren't able to make calls out in the local area. You say, for instance, if you were trying to reach someone, if you were in College Park, you may have had a problem trying to get in contact with someone who was just as close as Greenbelt because the actual cell phone towers were inundated with so much actual traffic at the moment in time. But if you have an actual communication plan, you can actually have a family member that's outside of the affected area that can actually be your point of reference. So you can call an aunt that may live in West Virginia that is actually not in the affected zone, or text them and have all of your family members know to reach out to that person to give them the information. Okay, I'm safe. I'm staying at this location right now. When mom calls or when dad calls, you can relay that information and we can actually coordinate from there. And that actually, assuages a number of fears and concerns, because when you don't have information on where a loved one is, that's when your mind starts to wander. So a communication plan is definitely a benefit and a resource to have at your fingertips in the event of a potential disaster. And I do apologize, but I'm working in my office, which has a motion detector. So as you can see, it got a little dark in here. Now, do you and your family members have an evacuation plan for your home? We all remember doing evacuation drills at school, at work, but how many of us have actually conducted an actual evacuation drill at home? Even with, we all know that you want to vacate the home, but you also want to ensure that when you vacate the home, there's a rally point that's outside of the home that is in a safe location. You don't want to actually say, okay, we run out the home, but we wait in front of the house. If there is a fire at your home or anything that would actually require emergency services to actually be on site, they would need to pull up in the middle of the street. So you would need to actually have a rally point that is somewhere away from the actual home itself. But it needs to be known from all of the family members so that way when we evacuate, whether or not I go out the front door, my daughter goes out the back door, we know to meet at that rally point. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, I'm gonna keep on moving. Okay, how can I keep copies of vital records safely that I can access at a moment's notice? I recently responded to an apartment fire in Riverdale, where there was a gentleman that actually had to be retrieved from the fire via his balcony. With that retrieval from his balcony, all of his documents and so forth were destroyed within the fire. He didn't have his car keys, he didn't have his wallet, he had no documents or anything of that nature. All of those were actually destroyed within the fire. So in order for him to begin his recovery process, he had to first acquire all of those documents to be able to start accessing those resources. So I ask you all, do you have a plan for maintaining your vital documents? Many of us over the years have resorted to keeping paper records of our most important documents. But unfortunately, during times of disasters, these documents may be in jeopardy of either being damaged or potentially destroyed. There are various methods that can be utilized to store these documents safely, including you have water or fireproof safes. You could actually store some of these documents in the cloud storage. You could potentially create a Go kit for you and your family and have copies of those actual files in your Go kit. Or something that we all use for work, you could actually store them on a jump drive and have that jump drive in your Go kit and ready to go in the need that you actually have to actually utilize and access those records. Now, what we have here in this slide is just a picture of some of the items that you could actually start to utilize to generate an actual Go kit. Disaster Go kit is a bag that if a disaster were to occur at your home, we all know how to shelter in place because we've been doing it for the past 2 years, thanks to COVID. But if we had to evacuate at a moment's notice, we don't have the time to go throughout our home to actually gather all of those items that we would need. So it's advantageous for us to actually put a Go kit together prior to a disaster that would actually sustain us as well as our family members for at least 3 to 5 days if we were needing to evacuate our homes, possibly go to an evacuation shelter or even have to go to a friend or family member's home. It's just advantageous to have those resources readily available to go if need be. Lastly, when discussing Go kits, we need to establish a set time period to check your kits. I suggest at least twice a year to ensure that if a disaster were to occur, you're not left with inedible food for you and your loved ones. It's nothing worse than actually, feeling that you're prepared to go, you grab your kit and you're actually gone to your rally point, and then you find out that all of the food that's inside has actually expired possibly 2 years prior. Even you want to check the food, you want to also check your batteries as well as checking your first aid kit. There are items within a first aid kit that can expire. So you definitely want to check those items once you've actually packed your Go kit. Before we close out, our office would like to ensure that you have knowledge of the various resources that we as a county agency have to offer to our residents to keep them better informed regarding preparedness, notifications, alerts, as well as updates. The Office of Emergency Management coordinates the county's response to natural and man-made disasters. Office of Emergency Management is responsible for emergency preparedness coordination of response and recovery activities, as well as mitigation planning. OEM is the county's liaison with local, state, and federal officials in all aspects of emergency management. As Bob and Kenny just mentioned, we were definitely involved with College Park when there was an issue with the air, as we were delivering water to actually senior facilities, as well as working with Pepco to actually provide updates to the cities to find out when those power issues would be resolved. If you are interested in accessing any additional preparedness information from the Prince George's County Office of Emergency Management, you can please go to our website at www.princegeorgescounty.gov/533 emergency-management. And that will take you directly to the Office of Emergency Management's website. I would like to now talk about a few of the actual resources, as I mentioned, the notifications that you can actually utilize. Have you all heard of the Prince George's County Office of Emergency Management app? The app has numerous capabilities, including push notifications, emergency kit information, emergency evacuation route information, as well as power outage maps. So this app could actually have been utilized, when we were dealing with the actual recent incident that affected the county, where there were numerous trees down throughout the county, as well as power lines that were down without the county. You can actually gather this information via the app and upload it, and it would actually go to 311 as well as the responding agency, so that way that information can be relayed and actually assisted with the disaster at hand. Next, I would like to talk about our Alert Prince George's. I'm pretty sure everybody has gotten a ping on their phone about an Amber Alert as well as a Silver Alert. But as I've done a number of our outreach events, I noticed that we don't have a number of residents that have knowledge of Alert Prince George's. Alert Prince George's is a multifaceted application where not only can you receive emergency alert notifications in regards to possible events that have occurred within the county, you can actually hammer it down to the point that you only want to be notified about events that may be only affecting within your particular zip code. So if you only want to be notified about possible traffic events that occur in College Park, you can tailor your notifications to actually give you that information. But the beauty of Alert Prince George's is it actually is multifaceted. So if you have a friend, family member, or a loved one, or even a neighbor that possibly has mobility issues, they can upload their information into Alert Prince George's, so that way, say for instance, if Miss Mary lives at 1234 Main Street and Miss Mary is a W amputee, that in the event of a disaster occurring in Miss Mary's home, Miss Mary would need to be evacuated. If you were to upload that information into Alert Prince George's, if at any moment that address of 1234 Main Street comes up and goes to the actual 911 center, they will be alerted in regards to Miss Mary actually and her needs of being evacuated from that home. So it's definitely a good resource to have, especially if you have any residents in your community that have any mobility issues. It would be a great resource to share with them. Next, I would like to talk about National Weather Service. The National Weather Service is an agency of the United States federal government that is tasked with providing forecast warnings of hazardous weather and other weather-related products to organizations and the public for the purposes of protection, safety, and general information. If you can please invest in a weather radio in order for you to have the most up-to-the-minute information concerning upcoming weather forecasts that could potentially affect your area, that would be a great benefit to you. You can actually purchase weather radios at Walmart, Target, Dick's Sporting Goods has some as well as Amazon. The National Weather Service performs its primary task through a collection of national and regional centers, as well as 122 local weather forecast officers. As the National Weather Service is an agency of the U.S. federal government, most of its products are in the public domain and available free of charge, meaning that you can access and download a number of the resources that National Weather Service actually hosts free of charge if you're interested. Now, lastly, I would like to, in regards to National Weather Service, I'd like to discuss the various types of notifications that we generally see. And I'm not sure if any of you have had a chance to actually watch the news today, but we were actually receiving some of these notifications today. The advisory, a watch, as well as a warning. An advisory is issued when a hazardous weather or hydrologic event is occurring, imminent or likely. Advisories are for less serious conditions than warnings. They cause significant inconvenience, and if caution is not exercised, could lead to situations that may threaten life or property. A watch is used when the risk of a hazardous weather or hydrological event has increased significantly, but its occurrence, location, or timing is still uncertain. It is intended to provide enough lead time to those who need to set their safety plans in motion, can do so in advance if a forecasted event should occur. A watch means, in layman's terms, that a hazardous weather is possible but not imminent. People should have a plan of action in case a storm threatens, as well as monitor various avenues that provide NOAA, National Oceanic, and I get that as messed up, I'm so sorry. The National Oceanic, pardon me, the NOAA, disseminated data to listen for later information and possible warnings, especially when planning travel or outdoor activities. Lastly, a warning is issued when a hazardous weather or hydrological event is occurring, imminent or likely. A warning means weather conditions pose a threat to life or property. People are in the path of the storm, need to take protection and/or action. So if you receive an advisory, it means to actually take notice that there is a potentiality that it could occur. If you receive a watch, that means that it's a little bit closer in chances that it may occur. But if you receive a warning, it's pretty much upon us and we need to take action immediately. Any questions so far? And I'm sorry, I'm not able to pull up the chat right now while I'm doing that. Oh, thank you. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Thank you for Zoom. Lastly, I want to talk to you all about how many of you all heard about our monthly Creating Resilient Communities webinar series. This is a webinar series that we started last year in the height of COVID, where we were not able to meet in person to actually conduct preparedness trainings and so forth. Now, this webinar series has touched on various topics, including snow preparedness, storm safety, youth preparedness, as well as addressing mental health in young adults. With our next installment, which will be airing on September 20th, we'll be focusing on financial preparedness, where we'll have a guest speaker from the Financial Empowerment Center presenting. If you are someone you know of may be interested in attending, I would definitely share that actual link information with Bob to push out to the residents of the county, to the city.
Yes, please, if you send that to us, we will share it.
I'll definitely get that to you this evening, Bob.
Thank you.
Now that we've concluded my preparedness presentation, I would definitely like to open the floor to address any questions that may have been generated during the presentation. I'll try my best to answer them to the best of my ability. And, stop sharing right now. Give me 1 second.
As I had mentioned, we don't get a large turnout when these presentations are online live, but we do post this on our webpage so that our residents can view the presentations at any time.
Yes, sir.
And we encourage everyone to pass that word along.
And we also conduct trainings free of charge for anyone that is, we conduct a number of preparedness trainings. We do conduct CPR trainings. We do CPR certifications here, as well as we conduct basic CERT trainings, which are always available to county residents if they're interested in attending.
Rashid, would you mention for people here tonight and people viewing later what CERT training involves?
Oh, yes, sir. Our CERT is actually our community emergency response team. CERT training is it was actually started, and I want to say CERT started in 1985 in California following a large earthquake event, which has now become a national program across the nation. Our CERT training is actually a weekend program where we go, it's a 16-hour training. We conduct it over the course of one weekend, where we go over various levels of emergency preparedness that could actually assist a resident, not only during a time of a disaster, but also in their day-to-day life. We go over fire suppression training. We actually start a fire as well as teach you. We go over the various types of different fires, the various different types of, as well, fire extinguishers, as well as what fire extinguisher would be utilized for what type of fire. We go over wedging techniques. If I have anyone here that's possibly a former military, it's where they use leverage 2x4s as well as a metal pole to actually lift objects that would be larger and out of the scope of what someone would normally be able to do. I've actually seen an 85-year-old lady lift a dumpster utilizing the various different wedging techniques that they have actually gone over in the training. We also go over basic search and rescue techniques, which is actually good in case one ever loses a pet, a family member, or anything of that nature. It's good to actually have that knowledge of what to do and how to go about searching. And lastly, one of the major key functions that I think is beneficial to everyone to have knowledge on is we actually go over utility shutoffs. So we teach you how to deactivate utilities for your home, how to safely deactivate utilities for your home, as well as we provide you with the tools to do so. So the goal is to actually give you the actual the knowledge to better sustain yourself in the event of. So if there's an occurrence that occurs at your home and possibly you would need to deactivate the main gas line to your home, we would teach you how to do so, as well as give you the same tool that Washington Gas utilizes to do the job. So it's definitely a great training to have. Even if you're not interested in volunteering, it's still a great training just to have for your own knowledge and for the safety of your own family and loved ones. And we actually just had our last training was last week, and we have the next one upcoming, and I'll share that with you as well, Bob. Our next training is going to be the first weekend of November.
Thank you, and I'll push that out. Many of us have been through CERT training. Many of our city residents and some of our elected officials have been through the county CERT training in the past. And if there are enough residents interested who get trained, we can always restart a CERT team in
Yes,
College
sir.
Park or with some of our neighboring communities.
And right now, I guess there are a number of cities that have actually expressed interest in rejuvenating their program, as well as some cities are just, they're interested in bringing a new program to their municipality. And with the CERT team, I think that there are various different aspects of assistance that they can provide, not only countywide, but also on the municipal level. So they are a very, very good resource to have.
And as Rashid mentioned, the CERT training is good just for you and your families, emergency preparedness, and also to be able to help your neighbors, during a disaster where whole neighborhoods may be isolated, and you're able to assist each other. I think Todd had a question.
Yeah, are the CERT training dates listed on the website somewhere?
Well, what I'll do, I'm actually updating our training dates now. I can send you the November date, but I'm updating the dates for the remainder of FY 2023. So, I mean, FY 2022. So let me send those out. I'm working with our actual instructor now. I have all of our CPR dates already set up via Eventbrite, and I can send that link over to Bob as well, but I can definitely send the link over of our CERT training as soon as I've completed it. Yes, sir. I can send you the one for the next training, but it will be the link that I will actually send following that will have all of our trainings leading out into next June.
Well, I'd love to receive the dates, but I guess I'm just wondering, would you consider also putting them on the website, for people who
Sure.
come later?
I-
Sure, we'll do that. We'll do that on the city website and,
Okay.
and I'm sure OEM has it on their website.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it sounds like a wonderful training, but if people are coming to the OEM website wondering about it, there's a little description of it there, but then the next step would be to find the date you could do
To
it.
actually have the link information on the website itself. We are currently in the process. We just actually had a staff meeting, so they are in the process of revamping our website now. We just had a staff meeting last week where they were stating information in regards of how they would like to make it more user friendly and actually have it more accessing, where if you go to the site, you're able to find the information that you're looking you're looking for at a moment's notice, as opposed to having to browse through the entire website.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And I see Stephanie has her hand up as well. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, and thank you, Mr. Plummer. I have a question. You had said about putting your important information, and you said a jump drive. Is that the same thing as a thumb drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. It's just a different terminology.
I just hadn't heard jump drive before. Okay. I thought it was something new.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
And with our recent power outages that we had, well, not recent, it was in July. One of the things that really stood out to me is that I did not have any way to charge my phone. And after that occurred, the next time I had a chance, I ordered one of those charging stations that those block things that you take with you and able to charge up if you don't have access to it. And batteries, I have so many flashlights and things around the house. After a few minutes, all of them stopped working, and I was so annoyed. And now I have went to Costco and got batteries in the 100-pack things for all of the flashlights and stuff. I was so annoyed about that. But yeah, it's important to keep up with that.
Well, also aside from the charging stations, they do have weather radios that actually have charging capabilities. They have weather radios that actually have the crank on it. So not only can you actually use a battery to actually have it, to have it powered, but you can also crank it, and the crank actually can actually add charging to your cell phone as well. It does have the charging ports. Just as an idea. I know you do have the charging station now, but it was just
I'm
another
so
idea.
No cranking for me.
Fazul, if you have a question, sir.
Thank you. Very, very useful information presentation.
Thank you, sir.
We had a major storm, and I wish more of our neighbors actually knew this information, because after the information, many of us got calls from our neighbors asking what to do. I mean, our phone is just like Stephen is telling, I don't have electricity for many days. The food was going waste in the refrigerators. And actually, I know not entire College Park, some part of College Park didn't have electricity for days, and Barnum Heights, I think, didn't have electricity for 3 or 4 days. I know one of my friends, they had to go to the hotel and leave their house. So it was kind of a scary moment, but this kind of information is very useful and very comforting. I know that you have confidence that, I don't have to worry. I have the kid with me. So I wish, I didn't know, Bob, you told this month is the emergency preparedness month. So maybe we should leverage this month to promote this kind of information more on our social media, Facebook and other places. That's a good idea. One question I have, Bob, I know the bulk of the work is done by Mr. Plummer and the county. What is the city's role in it? I know you coordinate with them all the time.
And
In
we're going-
addition
Sure.
to the personal preparedness, how the city does the city have any evacuation management plan? Like, if some major incidents happen, and God forbid it doesn't happen anytime, where the residents will be evacuating? Which route?
So in fact, city manager and I will be presenting along with county to an upcoming city council meeting. But so in general, things like evacuation plans have to be situational. So, you know, if a disaster is occurring in one area, then the evacuation would go away from that area or around that area. So you can't just post emergency evacuation directional signs and expect people will always have to evacuate in that direction. So we rely on public media to get the message out to people. You know, just like you hear of traffic reports, you know, I-95 is blocked at this time, you know, use an alternate route. You know, those kinds of messages would be transmitted through public media, and we would work with Prince George's County Homeland Security Office of Emergency Management to direct people to buildings that have been identified as shelters. Again, you can't just publish a list of buildings because some of those buildings may be involved in a disaster area and would not be useful. So a lot of the information has to be situational for a specific incident. And so, you know, we hope to build some resiliency in the community and, you know, present more information in the future about emergency preparedness. Kenny, would you like to add to that at all, or?
Of course, you would catch me communicating other information out there at the same time. There is a number of things that we're looking at in terms of coordination with the county right now in terms of our emergency operations. In particular, actually, Miss Butler, one of the issues that you just brought up regarding charging of phones, that was one of the major issues that we had. And we work with the county to bring in some charging stations. We are actually looking at having those on hand as the city to be able to deploy those ourselves without having to go to the county and looking at, there are a number of those devices out there. However, you know, those devices also have to have a generator themselves in these situations, or a long-lasting lithium battery. So there's a lot that we learned from this past storm. We had the ability, usually you have not such a wide area of impact. The other issue that was going on is I think we have to also recognize that we have to be self-sustaining as a city. And there's oftentimes that the county, just as in this case, is dealing with multiple jurisdictions. There's about 27, I think, different jurisdictions within Prince George's County, of which we are one. And so, you know, they're very stretched for resources as well. And I can just say, I can't say anything but good things about the county. And to Mr. Plummer, thank you and your staff for all you all did to assist the city through that. But there's a lot of coordination that does go on behind the scenes that people don't see, making sure ambulances and police officers can get to the locations that they need to get to. There's some other kind of resources that we're looking at also to kind of be able to better coordinate with the county and the state and let people have access to the information that we have here at the city. So I'm not sure exactly if I answered your question fully, Bob, but
No, thank you. No, I just, and as I mentioned, we'll be discussing emergency preparedness with the city council in a council meeting soon. And And as Kenny and I have had conversations about some improvements in the future, again, to help our sustainability and enhance our resources so that when the county's resources are spread thin, we can still sustain ourselves. Pretty much like family preparedness. I mean, families need to be prepared to be self-sufficient for about a week. You know, that includes everything, as Ms. Butler said, having batteries on hand, having your medication that you will need on hand, having some dry goods and canned food, and so that if food in your refrigerator goes bad, you can still warm up a can of soup. One of the interesting things that I learned, I guess through CERT training or maybe Boy Scout training, I'm not quite sure. When you lose power to your electric can opener. So you need to have an old-fashioned can opener, or unless you're Popeye and can just squeeze the spinach out of the can in your hands. But you know, simple things like that, you know, as far as being self-sufficient and doing without electricity for a few days, those kinds of things. And Rashid mentioned the hand crank radios. They're interesting. It's good if you have some kids who like to turn cranks. They can keep it charged up for you.
It's definitely a blessing if you have kids, because they will definitely ask questions all day and want to do something. Crank the
There you go.
radio. Here you go.
Crank it up.
Susan, you had a question?
Yes, two things. If you could share the link to the Alert Prince George's 311, wherever residents can enter their mobility issues and have them, you know, tracked by the county and responded to. If you could include that in the information you send to Mr. Ryan, that would be great. Also, is that information communicated down to the local level in the case of an emergency? I guess it's just handled like any kind of 911 call, and you direct it however you think it will be most expediently addressed. Is that right?
Which information are you referring? I'm sorry.
Like if, say we have a big concern in the last storm on July 12th, is we had residents in large buildings that catered to the elderly and disabled who were without power. The city and the utilities were aware that they were without power and were prioritizing those buildings. But my thought was that it would have been nice to have known, for us to have had some sort of a list of particular residents, say, who needed electricity for oxygen, like who had a very acute need for electricity in a situation like that. So I just wondered if that is the kind of thing that.
Well, that information was being captured in regards to the senior facilities that were without electricity throughout the county. So that information was being captured, ran through Office of Emergency Management, and then passed on to Department of Health and the Health Department, so that if there were any additional needs that needed to be taken care of, those steps were actually made. Myself, we actually had a team that was actually going from location to location, actually delivering skids of water to senior facilities to ensure that it was on hand. So we were actively involved while the power was actually, while the electrical crews were actively trying to restore power. We were actively ensuring that they had actual access to resources on site.
Gotcha.
If that, you know, so we were actually trying to ensure that any and all needs that were presented due to this event were being met. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent, thank you. And also, I don't know if this is possible, but we have an upcoming event, College Park Day. So I don't know if if the city manager, if Mr. Young and if Mr. Ryan think it would be a good idea, and if Mr. Plummer is available, I think you have, Mr. Plummer, kind of a great demeanor for presenting this information and a way of presenting it that's very digestible. I think oftentimes people just kind of freeze when they think of like, I've got to make a plan and there's all these things I have to do. And you kind of have a way of breaking it down for people that I think it feels very doable. And I would love to see you at a table at College Park Day, you know, with your sample book bag, that your go bag that you put together, and you know, all of that, because I think you're really good at this, and I think our residents would really benefit from that if that's something we can do. I just thought
Well,
I'd go.
I thank you very much for speaking so highly of me.
Well,
But
this is the
I
second time in your presentation. And
yes, ma'am, I do.
so
I do remember you, Miss Susan from Berwood Heights. But I look forward to it. If you all would interested, we would definitely like to attend.
We can,
Yeah,
we will
have
make,
staff.
we will make room for OEM if they're willing to give up a Saturday for us.
I give up whatever time we need. Whatever time is needed, we'll be there.
Yeah, thank you so
I'll
much.
work with the event planner. There'll be space available.
Thank you all very much.
And just to point out to tonight's listeners, future listeners, our city webpage has information on how to subscribe to Alert Prince George's, and also how to subscribe to University of Maryland emergency alerts. So City of College Park residents are able to do both.
And also, we are presently working with the university as well. The University of College Park, their EM, I have been in discussion, and we are working towards actually creating another college cert team as well at the University of Maryland's campus. So we are, you know, there is actual interest, and we are looking towards actually connecting those engagement points.
And I'm sure Rashid knows.
I
was going to say, I'm sure Rashid knows that he can certainly get county council support for anything he wants to do, because the chairman of the council used to teach CERT training
Yes, sir.
back in the day.
Yes, sir. Definitely did. I actually attended one of his trainings years ago. I think Miss Maria has her hand raised.
Yes, I apologize. I was at the other meeting for a while, and I really wanted to pop on this because I saw you the last time too. After this storm in July, I recognized that a lot of senior citizens don't have cell phones, and so they have just Verizon, and their landline goes down after a short time. So has there been any kind of like idea how to deal with help people that don't have cell phones? Of course, the people who did have cell phones couldn't, had to have charging stations. I actually have one, so I was pretty good, but I know that I went knocking on a lot of doors for senior citizens that I know in my neighborhood, just making sure they were okay, because I couldn't reach them by phone. Is there any thought on, like, I know that Verizon has this like battery thing, but I don't think it works. They say that you have a battery, and like the one lady I talked to, she said her phone went dead right away, that there was no juice, she said. So is there any way that to consider, I don't know how to do it because I don't know the technology, but it just seems like our most vulnerable people, our senior citizens, I know a lot of them don't have cell phones. So anyway, is there any way of addressing that problem? Thank you.
No, that's a definitely good question. I know from my time with Department of Social Services that at one point, I believe there was a program that was allowing individuals to receive cell phones. I don't know the details of that program. So I would have to do a little bit more homework before I could actually say that it's something of a benefit. I do know that it was an organization that generally used to set up in front of the Department of Social Services, and they would actually ask for people to come over and say that they could help get cell phones. But I don't know how valid it is. They mentioned that it was a federal program, but I would need to do more homework before I could actually direct someone to actually receive that resource from them. But I don't know of anything locally where they actually provide cell phones, unfortunately.
Okay, and my second question is be really quick. Oh, sorry, Bob, did you want to
Yes.
answer?
Yeah, just a comment. And Maria, of course, you had experience with Neighborhood Watch. And so I think that's an example of what you did, is building community resiliency by neighbors helping neighbors. I mean, you know,
Yes,
if you've
Like a
identified,
phone tree almost.
yeah, if
Yeah.
you've identified neighbors who need assistance or rely on their landline, just having someone check on them and
yes,
see what they need is important. And that's something that probably the city and the county won't ever have enough resources to check on every home in our jurisdictions, particularly if they're isolated in a disaster or an emergency. So neighbors
Yeah.
helping neighbors and being trained how to assist, I think, is important.
And-
And let's
and-
not forget our cars are phone chargers.
yes,
Mhm.
yep, they
Yeah.
sure are. My last thing was, I just, as a kind of a suggestion is, I remember when we had, I think it was Hurricane Sandy, we lost power in College Park Woods at least for a week. And then when it came back on, a tree fell down on the power and knocked it out again. So we were without power for a week. And I know that FEMA had a lot of material out on their website that I got beforehand that was really helpful, just how to how to preserve your food, when you should throw your food away, just different things, information like that. You probably said this when I was not online, and I apologize if I'm making you repeat yourself,
No
but
problem.
if we could even have something so that people know, yes, you can, save your food with, dry ice, and you can get dry ice at, High Point, or you can get dry ice, or something like that, because the unfortunate thing is a lot of people have electric stoves, so they can't even cook their food. I have a gas stove, which I'm very thankful for, and our family, my boys did tons of ultra camping, so I have all that cranking stuff and all that those kind of things at my house. So I do all right in a storm, but I know that there were a lot of people that I was really worried about, what they were going to do, what they were going to eat, and that kind of thing. So if we could have something like that we can give a packet or something. I think you probably were saying that before I got on, but with, how to keep your food, and how to use there's a thing called a jet boil that you can just use, what is that stuff called that I don't know, that
Propane.
propane. It's just a little tiny propane disc, and you can heat water up and that kind of heat soup up in it, and it's pretty easy to use. So just stuff like that. Thank you.
Well,
Sorry,
thank you.
I'm so
Um,
sorry I missed you. I was really conflicted on which meeting to go to, but I'm glad I'm here now.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you.
Before we move on, I just want to mention one thing, Maria, about the landline issue. Because I used to have a landline like that. And basically, you can order, and now they're not, we call them landlines because we
But
use
they're
them like
really not.
regular phones, but they're not really landlines anymore.
They're all digital.
Yeah, they're all digital. And so you can actually order on Amazon replacement batteries for those, and I had like 3 or 4 that I would charge up. You can buy this separate charger. It is not like plug-in, like user-friendly looking. It has the 2 little clamps that you charge it up with, but you can literally buy a replacement battery which is kind of heavy, that you slip into that unit so that you can get you can have some backup internet access and phone access, just for those basics, like, uh-oh, now we've gotten into a worse situation and we need help, we need to make a call.
Okay, good to
That is
know.
an option.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't know what to tell the senior citizens. I just was like, oh, well, I'll come by your house a couple times, make sure you're okay.
Stephanie, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I did. Thank you. What I should have mentioned first was that actually during this storm, I realized that my medication that needs to be refrigerated became a very big issue. Not only did I not have it, neither did any of the pharmacies, because they went down during the storm, and Greenbelt went down during the storm. It was really difficult to get insulin that I take twice a day once the storm hit, because that has to be refrigerated. So I don't know if anyone else had problems like that, but I certainly did.
Medication was, and that's what we had stated earlier, medication was probably one of the larger issues that we did receive from some of the senior facilities, but that information was relayed directly to the health department. So had we known, we would have channeled that information to the health department, only because they would have been they're better suited and they're more trained to actually handle those types of requests and or issues. But had we known, we definitely would have actually sent that information directly to the health department, Ms. Butler.
You mean if I had said something? I'm not sure I understand.
If there was an issue with your medication being damaged to the point that you would not have been able to retrieve it, that would have been something that would have been pushed up, just as if it would have came from one of the senior centers that actually had residents that were staying in. Had we received that information, we would have pushed that information up to the health department, and then they would have had someone contact you that is more in a more knowledgeable position to actually ask you what and inform you of what would be the next best steps. Maybe they would have directed you to the hospital or something of that nature, but they would have actually made the next decisions from there, only because they have the medical background.
Right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. My concern was just how during the storm with no power, you're faced with, how do I keep my medication refrigerated? And yeah, so that was difficult. Well, I couldn't be, it didn't, and neither did College Park pharmacies or Greenbelt pharmacies. So that was an issue with, as far as I was concerned.
I know
But I
there's
did get some.
some residents that we spoke to actually had told me that they had kept it in igloos. Actually, they had told me that they had gotten small coolers and kept their actual medication in igloos to just keep it, because they couldn't keep it in the refrigerator. The temperature was actually, going up, as every time they would open the refrigerator, they would lose the cool. So that they had actually informed me that they had kept it in igloos for the time being until they needed additional ice. They just didn't want it to get wet or saturated, but they definitely said that they kept it in there to keep it cooled at the best of their capability.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that. I was nearly out and needed refill like really soon. And it was just like a double whammy. But had I had enough, I probably would have done the igloo thing. Yeah.
Well, that's also a presentation that we also conduct presentations for access and functional needs and medications. So we're actually scheduled to do a presentation at a senior facility tomorrow. And that could be a presentation that we could share with the city of College Park if you all may be interested moving forward. And that's in regards to, you know, keeping medications and things of that nature as well. So it's what, you know, different preparedness steps to do if you actually have medications that you would want to actually, that you would need to act life-sustaining medications.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any?
And if anyone here tonight or anyone who views this later has additional questions, feel free to send them directly to Rashid or through the city. I'll forward any questions I get. Police questions I forward to Major Coletti, OEM questions to Mr. Plummer. And so unless there are any other questions, I'll invite the city manager if he has any comments before we close. And if not, thank you all for participating, and please spread the word. I'm not sure what our special topic is next month, but it will be around Fire Prevention Week. And so we may invite the fire marshal to provide, again, focusing on resident safety and home safety. I'm thinking at this point we'll invite someone to do that kind of a presentation. We're looking for topics that are of interest to the community. So any public safety topic is fair game, and we can certainly in this area find an expert on just about any topic to do a presentation for us. I see there's a question in the chat for Major Coletti. Do you have any crime prevention tips for the month, for the near future? I think just a suggestion I saw, if you didn't see it in the chat, Major Coletti provided some statistics on vehicle theft. And there was a large number of vehicles that were stolen that were unlocked or had their keys in the vehicle. So just back to the basics.
Bob, you're right.
Mr. Ryan?
Take your keys. Take your keys and lock your doors.
Don't leave your laptop on your front seat.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes, sir.
I know someone had a question about what was the percentage of vehicles that were recovered that were stolen. I
Yeah.
reached out to Auto Theft and they said it was actually 60% of vehicles that are stolen are actually located within 30 days of being stolen.
Right.
All right.
Good. So I think, again, do what you can to prevent your vehicles from being stolen. And you know, even though that's a good return rate, you know, we had a city employee who had a vehicle stolen, and of course windows get smashed and other damage might occur. So it may
Yeah,
not,
and I think we have an
may
uptick
not
in
feel
the
as comfortable
wintertime.
in your car.
Yeah, I think we have an uptick in the wintertime. A lot of people leave their vehicles running. So I know we had a task force going around citing people who were leaving their vehicles running in the morning. So that was the big uptick we were having in the wintertime with vehicles running, and people were running back inside their homes, and the kids would jump inside the vehicles and take off with them.
And just to wrap up, again, to remind our residents, if you see something, say something. It's great if you post something on Nextdoor or send an email to your city council member. Often that happens the next day, and we see things like, did you see those kids that were walking down the street shaking every car door that they passed? Well, when you see that, call 911, please. You know, police can get to the area. You may not even see the police, but they'll be saturating the area and we had a presentation last year from our aviation unit. It's incredible what they can see and not be seen, and direct the police on the ground to apprehend some criminals. So again, please report things to 911 first before you post it on your neighborhood blog or next door or whatever. So thank you, everyone, and good night, and be safe.
Thank you all for having me. You all have a great evening.